Good morning, Centennial. It's Friday, October 28th, and you're watching Titan TV Takes a Trip. We're here in San Antonio for this week's special edition. I'm Morgan.
And I'm McGuire. This is our third year traveling to San Antonio. Ever wonder why?
What made you want to go into journalism? Because I don't think this is an easy job.
This weekend, along with filming this week's edition of Titan TV, the broadcast team traveled to San Antonio to attend journalism workshops, and we got advice from some of the best journalism teachers in the state of Texas.
If your teacher walked into you and said today, guess what? You're all going to get an A+. If the book comes out on time. That's all you got to do. Would you work any harder?
Do the hook, and then the next paragraph, the next sentence is about the hook if you read about that, and then a sentence on every one of those segments.
Okay, most of you I know some of you are going online now, and so you're getting that immediacy. You're able to break stories and have that straight news lead, but most of the time you're covering things after the event.
The yearbook team also went with us and attended the workshops and participated in the competition.
I went to like a colors and fonts one that told us about how to do creative titles for our yearbook. We also did Photoshop ones, how to make our pictures better. A lot of teachers are really crazy and obnoxious, so it kind of keeps you awake, but I mean, it's fun, you learn a lot.
I like the one about is the InDesign one where you got to learn how to put pictures into words, and I like the one where you got to learn how to make a story about anything and learn that everybody has a story, so you just gotta find it.
So I was on the scavenger team that won first place in San Antonio. We spent the whole afternoon going around taking pictures of the most random things ever, and we got first place.
Congratulations again to Yearbook, who got first place as a team, and Broadcast, who won 3 awards for submitted stories.
The workshops we went to were a great learning opportunity.
Besides the convention, the River Walk is a very popular attraction here. Here's Braylon for more.
When people think San Antonio, the first thing that comes to mind is the Riverwalk. It's easy to see, with its rich history and culture, why it's the tourism center of Texas. First planned to be a diversion of the San Antonio River in the wake of a deadly flood in 1921, this waterway now doubles as an iconic and vibrant tourist attraction. I spoke with a San Antonio native who is an employee at Casa Rio, a popular restaurant that sits right on the water, to find out more about this unique location.
It was intended originally to be a park. It's still a park, and was intended for families and for businesses. The first architect of the river, Robert Hugman, had a vision of restaurants of different cultures. So we can kind of see that now, that it's just to bring families and just the public out and enjoy this natural river and some unique architecture along it. This restaurant that you're in, it was really a pioneer. It was founded by a family who, it's a German family again. They had an appliance store that was going under, and he said, well, let's see what happens if we go on the river. They were the first people to actually put tables on the Riverwalk.
The Riverwalk sits one story beneath downtown San Antonio and sprawls for 5 miles. It is open 365 days a year and draws in millions of unique visitors from all walks of life. This is Braylon, signing off, Titan TV.
Now we know the history of the Riverwalk, but what influences it?
Here's Lauren for more.
Being so close to the border, San Antonio is rich with Mexican influence. I explored the town to find out how it's affected by the culture.
On the food aspect, it's not a whole lot of differences. The difference is the culture that you find here in San Antonio. You cannot duplicate.
We spoke to a local store owner to find out how his shop has been affected. He explained to us that the products he sells are one of a kind. They're handmade, so there are no two alike. Marty's, owned by Pablo Batista, used to be in Mexico, but when the drug war started, he moved it to San Antonio. Because Marty's isn't the only business that this happened to, San Antonio is rich with Mexican influence of all sorts. You'll see the cultural differences everywhere, whether it's the architecture, the clothing, the food, or the customs. This is Lauren, Titan TV.
Hey McGuire, do you remember learning about the Alamo in Texas history?
I remember. but Alex shows us the other Spanish missions in San Antonio.
I'm here at the Alamo in San Antonio, Texas. Probably one of the most famous missions in San Antonio, if not even the United States, and rightfully so. It was part of the original settlement here at San Antonio, and it played a very important role in the Texas Revolution. However, there are also many other missions here in San Antonio to look at. In the early 1700s, when the Spanish were still colonizing the region, a string of missions was established along a 10-mile stretch of the San Antonio River. The first and most famous mission is the Alamo, designed as a settlement center and a fort to protect early settlers. A little farther down the river, Mission Concepcion remains the oldest unrestored church in America and was originally established to help convert Native Americans to Catholicism. Continuing south, Mission Espada stands as a former market for settlers and a trading post for some of the first cattle trails in Texas. San Jose is the largest of the missions and used to function as a small village. Now it is known as the Queen of the Missions for its beauty. The last mission on the river, San Juan, was not only a church, but also an important agriculture and ranching center. The development of the missions led to the eventual creation of San Antonio itself. Today they remain a great tourist attraction and a must-see for anyone visiting the city. From San Antonio, this is Alex reporting for Titan TV.
Those missions are so cool, but what I found interesting was the Dia de los Muertos.
What?
Most people get Day of the Dead and Halloween confused. While here in San Antonio, I talked to some of the locals to clarify. Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, is a Mexican celebration in remembrance of loved ones who have passed, celebrated from October 31st to November 2nd.
There's a big difference. Dia de los Muertos is associated with All Souls Day, the Catholic celebration of All Souls Day, where you revere your loved ones that have passed away. It really, as far as I understand, it has nothing to do with Halloween at all.
Day of the Dead is not a time for haunted hayrides or trick-or-treating. Rather, it is a way to celebrate death and honor past loved ones. The skeletons seen around Dia de los Muertos represent the family's loved ones and are often placed on elaborate altars made by the families to honor their past relatives.
Instead, they have incorporated what is now called the Catrinas, the dolls that we have, so that they can use the Catrinas instead of body parts, and brought their celebration to be celebrated with All Souls Day. But it has really no connection with Halloween.
Halloween is actually like, the word I believe is Hallows Eve is where that's the origin, Hallows Eve, and it's Eve, the day prior to the All Saints Day, All Souls Day. And so that's where the difference is. It's just the day prior to that.
Although they are celebrated around the same time, Dia de los Muertos and Halloween are not the same holiday. This has been Shelby, Titan TV.
Oh, I get it now. Everyone has heard of the Guinness Book of World Records.
But believe it or not, Ripley's takes it one step further.
While in San Antonio, we wanted to learn more about Robert Ripley and why his attractions are so popular. But first, we wanted to rub elbows with some celebrities at Louis Tussaud's Waxworks Museum. Robert Ripley was one of the most famous people in the world during the early 20th century, born in Santa Rosa, California in 1890. He was a natural-born athlete and loved to draw cartoons for magazines. The phrase, believe it or not, came from a cartoon originally titled Chimps and Chumps about 9 unusual sports. Later in life, Robert Ripley loved to travel and visited cultures that most people didn't know about. Ripley lived an eccentric life, and in his honor, Ripley's Believe It or Not museums are based on his extraordinary adventures around the world.
Occupy Wall Street, a movement inspired by the Arab Spring of 2010, is a leaderless resistance movement based around the idea that corporate greed and corruption have created an economic and political environment that directly contrasts what we consider the American way. The movement began in the financial district of New York City on September 17th of this year, but has now spread to over 100 U.S. cities and even made its way into Europe. While in San Antonio for Titan TV Takes a Trip, I had the opportunity to visit the Occupy San Antonio protest, a relatively small and peaceful spin-off of the Wall Street protest. I spoke to one of the coordinators of the protest to gain some insight into what this movement is all about.
This movement started on Wall Street for a reason. The tie between Wall Street and Washington is rather ridiculous. It's gotten out of hand. We stand out here because we believe, and we use the term 1%, we're talking about the very, very, very top corporations and their tie, whether it be the lobbyists or now that we can pour as much money we want to in elections, is not quite fair. We can grow and build from what New York started at 2,000 people to being 40,000 people all speaking the same voice. I look at this like a political campaign, except for it's really not. We're just spreading awareness about issues. You talk to a politician, they'll tell you to go vote. I'd like everybody to know what they're voting for. And this whole movement is awe-inspiring to some that watch people speak and come out in the media in New York, in Chicago, in Seattle, and Portland when the mayor comes out and walks with the people. That is what we want to see. We want to see awareness from our politicians. The most interesting part about this, the most amazing part about this entire movement is that it is bringing people out that normally wouldn't stand out in these parks together, normally wouldn't stand and sleep out in front of buildings together, to have these conversations on a daily basis of how they truly feel, that's what's being fed to them. And we say fed to them because we don't feel like we have a grasp on our decisions anymore. They say vote for your politicians. Well, they got in office and none of our politicians did anything for us in August. We watched all of them sit on their hands and kick the can down the road and then take a month-long vacation. Okay, now we're here to, if anything else, to say that that's not right. And we want political and economic accountability. I think solidarity means that the people that first decided to speak out, the groups that stood out here and they went and hit the streets for the first couple of weeks, and people that couldn't make it to New York started up in their own cities. And I think going back to starting from the ground up and spreading awareness is that we, the 99% of the American population, stand together. I mean, we want that democracy to step into our politics. We want democracy to happen. And the word solidarity means that the decisions should be made for us. And we have to embrace each other and understand and not have that disconnect that the 1% has with the 99%. So by using the word solidarity and truly living the word solidarity and coming together in these little communities, even if it's bigger on the weekends and smaller during the week, we know what we're doing and we're supporting each other.
So as the Occupy movement continues to grow and gain momentum every day, we should keep our eyes on it, because today being the 41st day of protest, it doesn't look like it's going anywhere anytime soon. This is Braylon, signing off, Titan TV.
That's it for this week's edition of Titan TV Takes a Trip in San Antonio.
Have a good Halloween weekend, Titans.
Titan TV in San Antonio. Can we do the same thing so we can go down the thumb this time?
Tyler.
It's more like this in these videos. No, yeah.
The wire's the only one that didn't work.